In this part, we will show you how to arrange your hand in preparation for the first action in our game. You should have drawn all your tiles, but still have them face down in front of you. The next step you will be taking in the game is called the Charleston. In this part of the game, you will pass tiles to other players. Before this starts, you will be organizing the tiles you have drawn and comparing them to the descriptions of hands found on your card. This is the most difficult part of the game for most players, but especially so for new players, since they may have trouble recognizing a hand which matches their tiles. When you have found a hand on the card which matches several tiles in your hand, you will be able to decide which tiles you can pass. There is no magic trick to doing this. As you learn to read the hands on your card and become familiar with all the hands, you will gain skill in choosing your starting hand. I am going to give you some guidelines on how to look at your hand to make a decision about what to pass.
After I draw my tiles, I place them in my rack. Once I get them there, my first step in arranging the hand is to get them all right side up, as in the example shown here. In this sample set of tiles, I show them as I might have first placed them on my rack. When they are like this, it is hard to decide what to do.
Here I have arranged my tiles by suit, with number tiles in order. Then I put my flowers together, my winds together, my dragons together, and my jokers together. When my tiles are arranged this way, I notice many number tiles from one suit. BAMs. When I have many number tiles in my hand, I know I need to look at the groupings that have mostly number tiles in them. These are the consecutive run, the 2, 4, 6, 8, the 1, 3, 5, 7, 9, and the 3, 6, 9 groups. Once my tiles are arranged this way, I compare them with the possible hands on the card and see if any of the tiles might work with one or more hands. At this stage, I do not expect to see a lot of tiles which work in any given hand. I will tell you which section of the card I would look at, but the hands I will select my starting hand from are the sample hands at the end of handout 2. When I look at this set of tiles as I have arranged it, I notice that there are several BAM tiles in consecutive order. While I would look at the consecutive number group of hands on the card, here I will look only at my sample hands. Because my number tiles are mostly in one suit and are the higher numbers, I would select the first of my sample consecutive run hands, the one with the 2 5s, 3 6s, 4 7s, 3 8s, and 2 9s. My matching tiles would be those shown here. I include my jokers with the matching tiles since they would be used in this hand. After I select this hand, I would rearrange the tiles on my rack to put the matching tiles on the left side as you see in this slide. This makes it easier for me to see what tiles I still need to complete the hand and which tiles I do not need and can afford to give away. The tiles which do not fit are on the right. Here's another set of tiles. I suggest you try different arrangements of the tiles if you are not sure what to do. I will take you through what I might try with this hand. I arranged it here as I did the first hand by suits and numbers, winds, flowers, etc. As you can see, there are not many consecutive numbers. As a new player, when I did not see a set of consecutive numbers that might work in the consecutive numbers group, but there were a lot of number tiles from one or more suits, I would count the numbers of even and odd tiles. If I had more even numbers, I would put those on the left and look at the hands in the 2, 4, 6, 8 grouping. If I had more odd numbers, I would place them on the left and look at the 1, 3, 5, 7, 9 grouping. Although you will be looking at hands on your current Mahjong card when you are playing, what I want to do now is just look at the imaginary hands I gave you in handout 2. Since I have 8 even but just one odd number tile, remember to ignore the numbers and words on flower tiles, I have rearranged the tiles with the even numbered tiles on the left. In a game, I would look at all the hands in the 2, 4, 6, 8 group on the left side of the card. Looking at my sample hands, I select the 1, 2, 4, 6, 8 hand, which has 4 2s in green, 3 4s in red, 4 6s in green, and 3 Ds in red. These are the tiles for my hand, which would match my selected hand. Here I have arranged the tiles in my rack to show the ones in the hand I chose on the left. The tiles which do not fit are on the right. Here is my next set of tiles to consider. I start out arranging it as usual by suits, winds, and flowers, etc. Since this hand has several wind tiles in it, I would look at the winds and dragons grouping. In my sample hands, I have a hand that is 3 Ns, 2 Es, 2 Ws, 3 Ss, and 4 Ds, and afterwards it says, any dragon. Here are my tiles, which match this hand. I have rearranged my hand to put the tiles that match on the left side. As in the previous cases, I have put the tiles that I do not expect to need on the right. I will select tiles to pass from these on the right. Sometimes you have tiles that don't fit your selected hand, but which you might want to keep. For example, here I am keeping one flower tile, because when I look at the winds and dragons group of hands, there are several hands that use flowers. Keeping this tile might make it easier for me to switch to another hand in that group during play. Here is my next set of tiles to consider. Some hands offer more than one good possibility. In this hand, I arrange my tiles by suit, number, etc. There do not appear to be any consecutive numbers, but there are a lot of 3s and 6s. I decide to look at the 3, 6, 9 grouping. To help me see this better, I have rearranged my hand with the 3s, 6s, and 9s on the left side of my rack. My sample 3, 6, 9 hand's description is 2 Fs, 4 3s in green, 4 6s in red, and 4 9s in black. My tiles which might fit this hand are shown below. Notice that I have 2 groups. The first one uses 2 3 BAMs and 1 6 dot. Notice that I must use all 3 suits to make this hand. Since my 3s are BAMs, I can use the 6 dot. In the second group, I do not have any 3s or 9s, but I do use the 2 6 BAMs. I cannot use the 3 BAMs because they are the same suit as the 6s, and my 3s and 6s are different colors on the card, reminding me that they must be different suits. I then check for other tiles that might work with my number tiles. If I find any of them, perhaps flower tiles or dragon tiles that match the suit of some of my number tiles, I move them to the left side of my rack of tiles. Here I have moved the tiles, which fit my preferred hand of the 2 I show below, to the left side of my rack. Again, the purpose of moving these tiles to the left side is to make it clear what tiles I need to make sure I keep during the next phase of the game. I move the tiles which do not fit either of my possible hands to the right side of my rack. I have placed the tiles which fit in my second possible hand in the middle of my rack next to the ones from my selected hand. These are tiles I will keep until I have enough tiles for my chosen hand to force me to get rid of them. If I drew more tiles that would fit the second hand, but not my first choice, say some 3 or 9 dots, I would put them with the 6 bams in the middle. If I find that I have more tiles in that section, I would switch hands. While we are looking at the tiles I have in my rack for this hand, I want to mention some other considerations in choosing the hand you will work on. First, I've highlighted the 2 flower tiles in this hand. In the description of the hand, it started with 2 Fs. Having both these flower tiles makes it more likely that I will be able to complete this hand. Remember that you cannot use your joker tiles in a pair, so if I did not have these, I would have to draw both of them to make the hand. The rest of the sets in the hand are 4s of a kind. That means I can use my jokers to replace any missing tiles from those sets. I've added a graphic below showing a little section from the numbers on the right side of your card after each hand. There you will see either an X or a C and 2 numbers. The X represents exposed and the C concealed. If you choose a hand with a C, it is much more difficult to make the hand. I highly recommend that new players avoid playing any concealed hands. We will discuss this in more detail later in the tutorial, but when I was new to the game, I highlighted all the concealed hands on the card and avoided trying to play them. From this part of the tutorial, I want to give you a few reminders. When you get your tiles on your rack, rearrange them by suit and in numerical order. Put your winds together, your dragons together, your flowers together, and your jokers together. This will make it easier to consider what you are going to do next. When you have thought about what might be possible, rearrange your hand to better fit the section of the card you are considering. Since you are likely to have more number tiles than you do other types of tiles, look for consecutive numbers or even number tiles or odd number tiles as a starting point. Consider how many singles or pairs are in the hands you have the most tiles for. If you have a pretty even split between 2 possibilities, but you have the singles or pairs you need for one of the hands, that one will be easier to make. Consider whether it is a concealed hand. If it is, unless you have many of the tiles for it, try to find another alternative. When you find a likely hand, put the tiles together for that hand so you can see progress. As you go through the rest of the game, you will be receiving new tiles and discarding ones you do not need. If you have the tiles you need together on your rack, it is much easier to check them against the description of the hand you are trying to complete. You have had a chance to see how you might arrange your hand and what thought process you might use to decide which lines or hands your tiles might lead you to consider. We are going to stop now so you can work handout 4. Find what hands the tiles you see on the handout might fit into. Select the hands that seem to be the best fit. Once you have completed this handout, place the tiles you drew previously on your rack on the slanted portion facing you. Arrange them with tiles from each suit together and in numerical order. The dragons together, the winds together, the flowers together, and the jokers together. Refer to handout 1 if you need help identifying your tiles. Your coach, if you have one, can double check to see that you have done this correctly. Match these tiles with your card, just as you did with the initial hands in the handout. In our sample hands, you had 5 or 6 tiles, which matched a line on the card. When you look at your tiles, you may see that you have been dealt a set of tiles where there are only 3 or 4 tiles which form the beginning of a line or hand. Mahjong has a way to potentially help you increase the odds of completing your hand. Mahjong play is divided into 2 parts. The first part is called the Charleston, and we will cover it next. When you have completed this process and are ready to start again, play part 6 of the tutorial.